Happy New Week, everyone. I'm delighted to say that yet again we're live in the studio. Gurav is joining me. How you been? How's your week?
Oh, I've been great. I went down to Cornwall this weekend.
Oh, that's quite far.
It was fun.
Train or drive?
I got the sleeper train on the way there. So
sleeper train?
You slept on the train. Yeah. Like you go.
I never would have guessed a sleeper train. No. A sleeper train. You go to sleep.
I know. No, you like go to sleep at like 11. You wake up at 7 and you're in Cornwall. Oh, it's a weird sensation.
That's amazing.
But yeah, I really enjoyed it actually.
Oh, I've done a sleeper bus before.
Ooh,
I know.
Comfy,
on a team when I played for DC United, funnily enough. But yeah.
Well, there you go.
Did you have a good time?
I did. It was lovely.
Amazing.
Very nice. But yeah.
Well, there's been a lot happening this week.
There has. It feels like ever since our show, it has kicked off in the world of women's football. Haha, punny. But we've got to start with the League Cup draw, the Subway League Cup draw, of course, the quarterfinal and semi-final draw. Now, Lianne, so much has been said about this already. In case you have missed it, GK Barry, an influencer, was brought in to do the draw alongside Ella Rutherford, her partner. And I don't even know where to start. I mean, for starters, obviously the tone has been criticised. I think GK Barry, she's known for being that cheeky type. There was a lot of banter, I suppose. Some of it, obviously I won't repeat, but you can have a look at on our social channels. Some of it is up there. There's also a lot of kind of unprofessional conduct. I think it's very clear she doesn't know a lot about women's football. She was kind of, asking whether her teams were any good. But also the main thing that's happened is that Tottenham have had to receive an official apology from WSL Football because she used the chant, "What do we think of Tottenham?" in an official draw, which there's no question that shouldn't have happened. Other things, of course, she kind of dropped a ball in at one point and took it back out again. And there were questions over whether it was actually a legitimate draw. Lianne, what's your thoughts on all of this?
I mean, firstly, I find it quite funny because I like GK Barry, right? But what I don't find funny is the fact that I'm really surprised that they actually got her to do it. I like her partner, Ella Rutherford, as well. We obviously know she plays at Ipswich. I'm pretty sure we follow each other on Instagram. And this is what she does. So I don't really understand why people are surprised at that situation because she's really funny. I find her funny. But in that context, you've got 1,000,001 people you could have got to do the draw. I think the draw should have been redone. Genuinely, because if a ball's been put back in, I mean, we've done the draw here at talkSPORT many times, and I remember feeling more nervous than playing when the balls are there. When they've got what's the one? It's like the same number, and I'm like, let me make sure it's not a 3 or an 8. Like, you're really paranoid about getting it wrong. But I don't think GK Barry needs to know a lot about women's football to do the draw, but they've hired somebody that's known for innuendos, known for being funny, so I don't know why they're surprised at this situation. And overall, it just was really unprofessional. Why they're trying to get people I don't believe GK Barry's fans are going to watch women's football. Whether she's doing the draw or not, they're not going to watch it. So why does it always have to be this crossover of let's get the influencers, let's just keep them separate at times? I understand these companies want to make money, so they want to get people that have a big following to then, hopefully if they can get them to come to the page, then we'll get more money and more followers. It doesn't work like that. Do you honestly think GK Barry's followers are going to watch women's football? I mean, we could tell you that, probably not.
No.
But like I said, I like Ella, I like GK Barry. Do I think it's their fault? No, not particularly. I mean, Ella would know what the draw was about, let's be honest. But I understand why they'd have to do an official complaint to Tottenham. But then when Sir Rod Stewart did it a few years ago, it was kind of seen as a laugh and a ha-ha he-he. So was she the right person for it? No. Do I like her? Yes. But I think they've, no pun intended, dropped the ball on that one. Because genuinely, I don't get it. It's just really unprofessional.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself, honestly. And I think you're completely right about this thing where obviously a lot of companies now are having this conundrum of how do we get more fans into women's football? And some of them maybe are thinking, let's turn to an influencer. But you're absolutely right. People are not going to watch Liverpool versus Chelsea in the League Cup because GK Barry pulled the draw out. Yeah. It's just not going to happen. And so you come to this point now where you're thinking, how do we attract women's football fans in an authentic way? Do we use influencers?
Just get ex-players. Just
exactly.
Get ex-players or people like yourself, or there's loads of people out there that could do it, that really care about the women's game, and that are look how many amount of ex-players there are.
Yeah. And they know so much about women's football. You're absolutely right. Kind of along the same lines, we're going to continue on the League Cup. A little bit more news about the League Cup because we found out that from the 2026 to 2027 season, the top 3 teams in the WSL, so that's the teams that qualify for the Champions League, wouldn't compete in the League Cup. I think the FA still has to officially approve this, but we're pretty sure it's going to happen now. So that would mean this season Chelsea, Arsenal, Man United wouldn't be in the League Cup. What do you make of that?
I mean, I just don't see why they would make that decision, because I do think people see the League Cup as being, not a massive competition. I think it is. And I think if you're coming from, on one hand, it could give a less of a team an opportunity to win it. Okay, pros and cons. But at the same time, those lesser teams want to play against, say, a Manchester United or an Arsenal or a Chelsea. So do the teams need more games? Not particularly. Do the clubs really take the League Cup that seriously? Probably not. But as we saw in the men's game, the League Cup took a bit of a dip, didn't it? And then all of a sudden, it came straight back up again when teams like Newcastle were winning it. So I don't really know if I like that decision.
It's interesting because exactly what you said there about the League Cup interest, similar to kind of when GK Barry was doing this draw, a lot of people have come out this week and said the League Cup, no one's interested in it. From my perspective, I've always really liked the League Cup. I remember when it was the Conti Cup, and I think it was, one of those that Arsenal were winning every year, and there was a bit of voodoo around it.
The players care,
Yeah,
when I played in the League Cup, I've won it like 3 or 4 times. Like, I cared.
And
I remember the games like it was yesterday. We played against Charlton and Faye White scored a screamer, Wickham Wanderers. Like, we remember those games. Every player wants to play in a final.
Why do you think it is then that there's this conception around the League Cup in particular, more than like the FA Cup? Because I don't think that's ever been called into question. So why is it that the League Cup has got this aura around it?
I don't know. I think when they made it into the Conti Cup, I actually don't think that helped, because there was that group league stage, wasn't there? And it just looked a bit, didn't look great, did it? The trophy looked a little bit like, not cheap, but you get what I'm saying. So I understand why people might not take it that seriously there. Similarly to in America, we had the Challenge Cup up until a couple of years ago, and they got rid of it. And it was like £1 million prize fund. I don't know. I think the fans probably feel that way at times. But then on the flip side, if you're doing a draw like that, no wonder people are not taking it seriously.
Exactly. I mean, hey, look, for me, it's more football. You get to watch teams competing in more competition, which I guess leads into this question of, are players playing too much football? Maybe. But you know what? I think the League Cup is a great doubt, although I do hope that they hold the final at good places, because we did have this whole thing about it being at Derby's Pride Park last year, and the pitch wasn't great, was it?
No, the year before I'm pretty sure I did the game at Selhurst Park, and that was really good.
It was,
but I just think, unfortunately they picked a venue that pitch was terrible.
It really was. It wasn't good last year. Right, now let's move on to chat about your former team Arsenal, because there was an article that came out in The Athletic this week by Megan Feringa at the team, and the team at The Athletic really picked up a lot of interest, because it's talking about Arsenal women and their decline, I suppose, post-Champions League win. They had this great moment in May, and it's not been going great for them, I think we can all agree. But some of the revelations in this article have been really interesting. I'll read you a little bit from it. It says, unrest in the dressing room has persisted for many years, with a small group of players wielding significant influence. Arsenal's commitment to their women's team is not in question, but there remains uncertainty in some quarters about how it fits into the club's overall strategy. To give you a bit more of a sense of what it's talking about, the article also mentions negative responses from multiple players about the sense that the squad culture needs to be addressed further. It also talks about players not getting playing time. I'll bring up Jana Niswanger, because I know a lot of Arsenal fans are just fuming about the fact that she's not making it into squads. It also mentions players like Freya Godfrey, who of course have had to go elsewhere to get that game time, and she's doing really well now. So basically it's just talking about this sense that something's not quite right at Arsenal women. I mean, what do you make of that?
I mean, The Athletic are a fantastic resource for these types of things. So I think in women's football there is usually some truth behind it. How true, I don't know. My feeling around the club, when I'm around the club, I don't get that feeling. I haven't heard anything from players, and I speak to quite a number of them. I have a good relationship with the club, and I think when the team is not performing to these levels, you're going to try to find something. I can honestly say I spent 12 amazing years at that football club, right? When I re-signed in 2015, I walked into the dressing room and I thought, this isn't the Arsenal that I know. This wasn't the Arsenal that I felt. The energy was different. All my teammates had already left. Whereas I grew up at the club where it was very family orientated, very family friendly. And that's why I left after a year. Pedro was the manager then. The culture wasn't great. I think we've moved on from that. I do. I think you get a feeling around the club. Look at when they won the Champions League. There are going to be in teams. Do you think I loved all my England teammates and Arsenal teammates and they loved me? Not particularly. When we won the quadruple Arsenal, 2 of our teammates couldn't stand each other, but you'd never know that on the pitch. So, I don't know. I think people are looking for something. They love Renee. I've heard all the players saying how much they love Renee. And there will be in the team players that will stick to each other a lot more. That's just the reality. But I don't know. I don't feel like there's a reason. I don't know. I don't think there's clicks. I'd have to do a little bit more digging, but I don't get that feeling from the club. I just don't think they've been performing well. Now, Jenna Nice-Wanger's a weird one because when they picked her, she was Rookie of the Year in America. She was playing for the US Women's National Team, and she really has not got a look in at all, which is quite strange because why would they bring her if they're not even going to give her a chance? But then Cooney Cross, same situation. She's been up and down like a yo-yo this year, in and out of the team, not even making squads, like not even making it on the pitch, sorry. So it's up to Renee Segers to do what she wants. She is the manager and she won the Champions League. So she has a little bit of leeway. But with the results that have been going this year, they've been nowhere near it.
And that's the moment when you suddenly start to look for the reasons why, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, when they're winning the Champions League, no one's worried about these divisions in the dressing room. The moment things started going south, it's like we have to find an answer to this. And I think there is...
But these, sorry to interrupt you, but these types of things, right? I don't like the crypticness of it. Do you know what I mean? I just want them to say what it is because it's like, well, is it because of this? Is it because of that? Like if reporting's going to be done, I just love it if there was like not speculation because it makes us speculate. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, and then that doesn't lend itself to a healthy team environment either if your team's been talked about in the media for all the wrong reasons. Yeah. Let's move on now to talk about, this is a really sad story. Aitana Bonmati, of course, we found out yesterday she's fractured her leg in training. Not only is she going to miss the second leg of the Nations League final, which we'll talk about in a second, she'll probably miss the rest of the domestic season and the Champions League, of course. Not sure how long it will take her to recover, but this is just obviously terrible news for the best player in the world, I think I can say, without a doubt. We wish her a speedy recovery. But Lianne, she's done this in training. I mean, I don't even know what to say.
Yeah, no, I'm gutted for her, to be honest, because I know a lot of people, including myself, thought Mariana Caldente should have got the Player of the Year. But the reality is Bonmati has won it like literally 3 years in a row, right? And she is the best. And I'm gutted for her, genuinely. How this type of thing happens in training, I'll never know. But wish her a speedy recovery. It'll be disappointing for Spain, for Barcelona. But thankfully for Barcelona, the only silver lining is Alexia Putellas is firing now. And I think they will miss Bonmati, no doubt. Hopefully it won't be like a long-term thing. We don't know what severity, like she's broke her leg, but sometimes you can be back within a couple of months. It depends, the severity of it. But yeah, like thought to with Bonmati because she's just an absolute joy to watch and I can't wait to see her back on the pitch.
Yeah, absolutely. We wish her all the best. And of course, that kind of leads on to talk about the Nations League final. The first leg was great. It ended 0-0 between Spain and Germany. Really exciting. And these two are so well matched. We saw that at the Euros. Spain without Bonmati, but also without Patrick Guijarro. So kind of two of their three wonder midfielders not there. Katakoi, though, had a great game. She, I think, really, really kept them in that. Now we've got the second leg. How do you see this one going?
Yeah, you know what? Even in the Euros, I actually thought Germany were the better side. And I remember Kathryn Berger had an absolutely unbelievable game in that game. And I actually thought they were the better side in that moment. Difficult one now because without Bonmati, you mentioned without Patry as well. She's been a massive loss, I think, to Barcelona. Both of them will be. It's difficult because Germany, I think, in the recent months have become more like the Germany of old. You know, I always say they are the best in the world at getting down the line, delivering on the run. They've got some brilliant players, but it's about who plays in that nine. Like Schuler, I just don't think has the same presence as a Pop, you know, and I think it just depends on like Bruhl's having a decent season, but like the consistency of these players is coming to question quite a bit. But when you've got goalkeepers in your net like Kathryn Berger and those types of goalkeepers, like anything is possible. So how do I think it will go? I still think Spain might get the win. I think they might, even without Bonmati, because of the quality they have in their team. But we'll have to wait and see.
We will, because, of course, it was Bonmati who scored the winner against Germany at the Euros. We'll see. I actually thought at the time of the Euros, because obviously we were kind of discussing whether or not Spain or Germany might get through and then face England. I actually at the time remember thinking I'd rather it be Spain because just the way that Germany were playing, they were better at the time. So we'll see if they can get one over at all. Next thing I want to talk about. Our colleague, Rusha Littlejohn, is waiting to see whether her red card ban will be extended. Now, for those who may not have seen this incident, she was given a red card in a match against Leicester for Crystal Palace she was playing. It involved an incident with Hannah Kane, and, you know, her ban at the moment is a 3-match ban. The FA have this guidance where they say that, you know, if they think that, you know, it was too serious of an infringement, they can upgrade the ban. She's waiting to see what will happen there. There's two parts to this. Firstly, of course, the foul itself and whether that warrants a longer ban. The second thing, and we have to stress this very highly, ban or no ban, there's been some horrific abuse directed at Ruesha Littlejohn online. And I want to shout out Carla Ward here, her manager internationally, who has done exactly what a manager should do at this point and has defended her player and said, you know what, that's not warranted. No matter what she's done, the abuse she's getting, and it is horrific, she doesn't deserve that at all.
No, it's a difficult one because I actually met up with Shaban for lunch the day after, and I know it can affect people in different ways. You know, that's her twin sister. Making no excuses for Ruesha. She doesn't need to tell her that. And I would speak to Ruesha and say the same. It wasn't great. Let's be honest, but she hasn't killed anybody. No. It wasn't like, oh my God. And this is the thing, right? I remember in the North London derby last week, there was a doggy and there was another player, I can't remember. And they kind of got themselves into a headlock and then they laughed about it. It wasn't great. Hannah Kane did push Ruesha. I'm not saying that warrants Ruesha that reaction. But I just think, I don't know, in the women's game, we're just not used to this type of stuff. Like, and I just think the onslaught, like a lot of people are saying, well, Ruesha said about Hannah Hampton's behaviour. That doesn't mean that didn't happen. What, so we're not allowed to have an opinion on something because, like, yeah, it isn't great from Ruesha. She knows that. But the fact that people are, like, all over her in this way, I don't really get it. Ruesha's held her hands up. She knows she was wrong. I don't really know what people want her to do. Genuinely. Like, she hasn't, anyone of that, like, think like she'd hurt somebody really seriously. Like, I've been on the end of some horrific tackles that were way worse than that because there weren't cameras there. People didn't really want to talk about it. So, I don't know. Is it part and parcel? It's like a WWE wrestling move, like taking nothing away from it. Like, I don't know what went through Ruesha's head, but like, she ain't hurt no one. Like, you know, the game can move on. But I just think people should separate the fact that Ruesha had an opinion about Hannah Hampton and Ruesha's then made that mistake. We all make mistakes. You know, people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. All those people that are coming at Ruesha, like, they're not perfect. So, yeah, it is what it is, really. I mean, like I said, wasn't great, but Ruesha knows that and she'd accept the responsibility. But the whole, oh, you said about Hannah Hampton, so you shouldn't be doing that. Like, do you really think that was going through Ruesha's head when she did that? So I'm thinking, actually, on Monday, I said about Hannah Hampton's bad behaviour, so I probably shouldn't do this. You know, it's wrong and she'll take the ban, but the whole current continuation of it, if this was in the men's game, it would just be water for ducks back.
It's two different things, isn't it? It feels like. Finally, let's end on some good news. I know we kind of already knew about this, but the UK has officially submitted their bid to host the Women's World Cup in 2035. Yes, I know that is 10 years away, but it's super exciting. They are, of course, the only bidders. We can't officially say they've got it yet, but, you know, it looks like in April it will be confirmed that it's going to be here. The exciting news is that, you know, some of the stadiums, the new Old Trafford's been submitted as part of that bid, Birmingham's new stadium, Wrexham's possibly expanded stadium. I mean, Lianne, as a former Lioness, I get emotional thinking about this, just having watched women's football over the last few years. But for you, this must just be like a dream come true.
It is. And I said to my wife last night, I said, I'm going to be 47.
21, you mean?
Yeah, I know, 21. I hope I'm still kicking and screaming. But yeah, I mean, it's just brilliant. As we saw the Euros in 2022, like what happened as time went on, you know, people that were falling in love with the Lionesses as time went on. Because at the beginning, there was a lot of like, you know, the billboards at Tower Bridge, London Bridge and all the bridges. But I feel like it picked up pace, didn't it? And I just think like hosting a World Cup in England would be just an amazing thing. And it is emotional. And I think people that have been part of the journey, people like yourself as well, you know, we watched the final together, the Euros recently, we were working together at Box Park. And like, it is emotional because in our lifetime, we've never seen England win anything apart from the women's team. So for me, like, I'm buzzing that hopefully we'll get this bid because it's a fantastic thing. And I think we're in a place now that we can host it. You know, I think at the Euro 2022, were we really in a place where we could host it? The games were at Bramall Lane, you know, they were selling out, it was great. But I think the FA did a really good job during that time. And I think now, I mean, what a dream come true.
And it's going to be so exciting to go into a tournament knowing that the hype is going to be there already. I feel like it built through Euro 2022, but this one, it's going to be there already. And what I just think is so magical is that there's going to have been little girls who watched the Lionesses win Euro 2022 and Euro 2025 who might be playing for England by the time this comes to the UK. And that is just incredible. And I should say, of course, for Wales, Scotland, for Northern Ireland as well, it's huge because for countries like that where your women's football team is in the earlier stage of its evolution, having a home tournament means so much more. We saw what it did for Switzerland. And I think, yeah, it's just, I'm getting goosebumps.
I know. I can't wait. It's going to, I mean, we have to wait and see, but fingers crossed. Well, Uma, thanks for joining me as always.
Thanks, Lianne.
This is the Women's Football Show on talkSPORT 2. I'm Lianne Sanderson. Coming up next, we'll have the Telegraph's women's football writer Kathryn Batte to break down England versus China. This is talkSPORT's Women's Football Show. Don't forget the talkSPORT network is the place to be for all things women's football. We have reporters at all WSL matches throughout the season, and we're the home of the Lionesses with live commentary from all of England's home games. Thanks for being with us. I'm Lianne Sanderson. I'm delighted to say I'm joined now by Telegraph's women's football writer, Kathryn Batte, and we're going to chat about all things England. Kathryn, how are you doing?
I'm not bad, thank you, Lianne. How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you. I was saying to you before, I'll bet your ears ring a lot because I talk about you a lot on this show, because literally about a year ago, you spoke to me on this show about Michelle Adjeman being kind of like a player that would be selected for the England squad. And I was like, what? It was almost like when Uma said Man United women were going to win the league. I was like, what? Sound like Littlejohn, don't I? And you were right. And I talk about it all the time because no one was talking about Michelle Adjeman. Then along came Kathryn Batte, talking about her a lot. So credit to you. And that's why I needed to get you on today, because we've got to talk about England against China. I mean, I didn't expect it to be that way. I'm sure Serena didn't want it to be a game where they kind of like played against an opposition like that. But what did you make of that game?
Yeah, I think England were expecting it to be a lot tougher as well. I think they'd prepared for a pretty competitive game. And obviously after about 15 minutes, we saw that it wasn't going to go like that. And I don't think it's the worst thing in the world to score a few goals, build a bit of confidence. You know, we've got World Cup qualifiers coming up next year, and the way that the Nations League works means that we don't get these kind of big scoring games anymore, which is a good thing. But you also sometimes don't get that chance to kind of get goals into different players and just build on confidence like you used to do. And as much as we can probably sort of question how much they learned from that game, I suppose there are positives to take out of it. I mean, Serena told us that there's always learnings from games, but we were kind of sat there thinking, I'm not sure how much you can take away from beating a team as easily as they did.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they expected... You can only play what's in front of you, but I'm sure they expected a bit of a better. Now, this resurgence of Beth Mead, I need to talk about, because last year it looked like, Chloe Kelly came in on loan from Man City, wasn't playing for Arsenal, now is playing for Arsenal, starting for Arsenal. Then it looked like her England career, was she going to be starting? Now she's starting, she's scoring. Like, just talk to me a little bit about Beth Mead, because I think I've loved Beth for a long time. She's a good mate of mine, but I feel like she's really kind of come back again.
I think if you remember going back to 2021 after she'd been left out of the Olympics and she had that brilliant WSL season and then obviously a fantastic Euros, she spoke a lot about being a player that thrives off kind of being written off and somebody that plays well when they're angry and they've got a point to prove. And I think maybe there were people questioning in the summer. Obviously, there was a lot of talk about London City Lionesses. Can she still perform for Arsenal regularly? Is she still at that level? And I think maybe she's taken that a bit personally and she's come back firing. Because I agree with you. I think for Arsenal, she's been one of the most consistent players this season, and it's really good to see. And obviously, took 2 brilliant goals for England on Saturday. And Serena spoke a little bit about her after the game, and she said, she's evolved as a player. She's always, been talented, but she's somebody that she really enjoys working with. And as I say, I think Beth really does thrive off people maybe writing her off or thinking that her best days are behind her. And I think she's shown at the minute that she's definitely still at the level.
Another player that really stepped up in this game, Georgia Stanway, getting the hat trick. I mean, she's unbelievable in general, but from the penalty spot as well. Like, she just doesn't miss, does she? 2 questions in this. Talk to me about her for England, but also contracts up in the summer with Bayern. There's been rumours about her going potentially to Arsenal, back to City. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's great to see Georgia Stanway back to her best, because obviously she had that injury at the start of the year, was really kind of on a race against time to get fit for the Euros. And I think people expect you to be at the level that, you were before your injury straight away. And it's really difficult to do that. And I think maybe, she had to kind of build up in that tournament. I think by the end, she was back to, close to her best. But now we're really seeing the Georgia Stanway that we know. And it is going to be interesting next summer when that contract does come into question. I think she loves being at Bayern Munich, and it's not inconceivable that she would sign there again. But you look at Bayern and you think, realistically, can they win the Champions League in the next couple of years? It feels like they're quite far away from that. And maybe coming back to the WSL is potentially something that she might want to do. And I think Arsenal are the team that need her the most. I think it would make sense for them to go in for her. City, obviously, she's been there before. Whether she'd want to go back, I think that's a question. Obviously, a different manager in charge now, whether that changes things. And you can never rule out Chelsea, even though they've got so many, so many players in their squad. They're always looking to, find that edge. But I do think Arsenal is the one that makes sense. And I would expect them to be front runners in the sense of they've got to go and get a player like that. So she's going to have so many options in the summer. I mean, it's up to her really what she wants to do.
And defensively for England, there are a number of changes. None other than Anna Morehouse gets her first start for England. Disappointment for Chiara Keaton having to pull out of the squad, because obviously with Hannah Hampton being out, this would have been a perfect time for Chiara Keaton. It seems like she is the number 2 and Anna Morehouse is the number 3. Not that Serena said that, but just judging from what I see. What did you make of Anna Morehouse? Didn't have much to do. Niamh Charles also started in that left back position. We're finally seeing Maya Letizia also start in centre back. We know there's injuries with Leah Williamson and Alex Greenwood, but what did you make of the back line?
Yeah, I mean, as you say, they didn't have loads to do, but what they had to do, they did well. And I think the thing with Anna Morehouse is she's such a calm and collected person. I think that can give confidence to the defence. She seems like quite a cool character off the pitch as well. She's sort of someone that's quite chilled. You know, you think about goalkeepers and they're sometimes a bit hyperactive, whereas she kind of seems like the opposite of that. And it's an opportunity for, obviously, apart from Lucy Bronze, whose place in the team is pretty much cemented, the other 3 positions, you know, it's a chance for Niamh Charles, Maya Letizia, Esme Morgan to really kind of say to Serena that we should be in this back 4 going forward. I think Maya Letizia started the season brilliantly, maybe had a slight dip, if I'm being, you know, a tad critical in the last few weeks for Man United, but I think that's because she's had to play so many games and she's probably, you know, that's probably catching up with her as well. Esme Morgan obviously has just finished the season in the US, and Niamh Charles now getting back and more time for Chelsea. And I thought what they had to do, they did well. Whether Serena will rejig it again for Ghana, I don't know, because there's not loads of centre-backs options in the squad with Grace Fisk pulling out earlier today. So it might be that Letizia gets another opportunity to play at centre-back, and she's got to make the most of it and show to Serena why she deserves to be there when the other players do come back.
Yeah, shout out to Esme Morgan as well, because I've seen her play a lot this year for the Washington Spirit. She originally went over there because she wanted to play under Jonathan Heraldez, and then he left after a few months, but she's been excellent this season. A lot of people, Kathryn, are saying that this game was a waste of time, right? The fact that it was 8-0. What do you think? I mean, Serena's saying that you can always, every coach will say you can take something from this and blah, blah, blah. But like, do you think it was a waste of time? Like, and also, why did we not see more changes to the team?
It's easy for somebody like me as a journalist to kind of sit there and go, well, what did you learn? I don't know what it's like for you, Lianne, when you played. I'm sure you had many games in your career where you maybe won by a lot of goals. And I don't know if you kind of left those games thinking that was a bit pointless, or if there were things that you thought, actually, no, that was good and we took this from the game. But it was a little bit uncomfortable watching how easy it was at times with China. I think, obviously, you know, their season finished in September, their domestic league. I don't think they played an international game since July. So whether that had an impact on it, I also think that investment in China just isn't anywhere near the level that it is over here. And in terms of more changes, I think this is kind of the Serena we know, isn't it? I think she viewed the China game as the harder game. Ironically, actually, I think Ghana may now prove to be a tougher game. So she would probably have in her mind to start what she thought was her strongest team available to her. And then again, in the second game, play a more rotated team and give, you know, maybe some of the younger players a chance to play. But actually, ironically, I think they'll have more of a test against Ghana on Tuesday than they did against China.
Do you think it's one of those things where we just need to give up saying that changes need to be made, because this is what Serena does and she does it incredibly well? Like, you know, she's won the Euros 3 times, made it to a World Cup final, but like, I just would like to see Grace Clinton being given a chance. Like, we know what these players could do. Like, I know Uma Gurav, our producer, is a massive fan of Aggie Beaver-Jones. I know she came into that game, but we know what Alessia Russo can do. And it's like, I'm sure these players at this moment in time, the amount of games they're all playing in, like, when you play for your country, you'll want to play every single minute of every game. I can tell you that. But like, surely we could see like players like Grace Clinton. She didn't even come into the game. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I do agree. And I think I'd be surprised if Grace Clinton didn't play on Tuesday. I think we probably will see her at least get some minutes if she doesn't start. But I think from Serena's point of view, I think she said it in the press conference today that there's only 8 international camps until the World Cup, which when you think about it isn't a lot. And in her mind, you know, she's not a manager that prioritizes, you know, giving players an opportunity. She does give players opportunities. She has done it more than she did earlier in her England career, but ultimately she's going to prioritise getting her starting 11 right. You know, she'll put people in when she wants to see them, but it's just not what she does. Rotating is not what she does. You know, in those big games or the games that she thinks are going to be harder. That's why I think with the friendlies for both of them, they picked a game which they thought was going to be a bit more tougher. So obviously last camp it was Brazil, this camp it was China, but it didn't turn out to be that way. And then the second game, Australia, and this time Ghana, where she thinks this is a chance to see those younger players or the players that haven't got as much experience. But I think that's just how Serena sees it. She wants to get her starting 11 nailed, and she's all about success at tournaments, and that's kind of how she thinks, rather than going, I'm going to come play a completely radical team that's, you know, not got much international experience.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great homecoming for the fans as well, being able to go to Wembley. And from what I've gathered from speaking to the players, like, Serena lets you know where you stand. And, you know, you might not like it and you might not want to accept it, but that's all you can do. And that's all I ever asked for, Kathryn, when I played for England, is a coach that would just be open and honest with you. This is your role. This is your responsibility. Now, before I come on to that game on Tuesday night coming up against Ghana tomorrow, like, I wanted to ask you about Chloe Kelly, right? Because obviously came to Arsenal last year on loan from City, did unbelievably well, but struggling to get game time at Arsenal, especially from the start, which has been his new resurgence of Beth Mead, if that's what we want to call it. And the same for England. Like, do we think Chloe Kelly's being pigeonholed into being a super sub? Like, because I'm sure when you sign for a club, you can't guarantee a player to start, but it seems like since she signed full-time at Arsenal, she's not really getting the game time we'd expect.
It's an interesting one, because I don't know how fit she's been all season. Renee Slagers has kind of hinted that she's had little knocks here and there and that she's been building back up, but then she's still been in the squad and she's still been coming on. So it's difficult to kind of know if she is fully fit. I mean, she's got that brilliant goal at Man City when she came off the bench, and then kind of hasn't had a much of a look in since then. And that would have been the game that you would have thought to start her in, playing against our old club. And, you know, since then she's kind of been in and out of it. And she did start against Real Madrid and thought she played quite well and got an assist. So I imagine she will be frustrated, because it does affect her, you know, a time with England. You know, that if you're not starting for Arsenal, you're probably not going to start for England. So I'm sure it's something she'll be kind of having conversations with at club. And I don't know how much Arsenal tell us in terms of the injuries. Renee's very, very, I don't want to say secretive, but quite often we'll have asked her for team news on Friday and she'll say everyone's fit, and then come Sunday there's about 3 players missing from the squad. So I wonder kind of if they're being a little bit economical in terms of how much Chloe's having to kind of manage her minutes from a fitness point of view, and that could be more something along the lines of that rather than anything else. But I mean, you probably know Chloe better than me. She's somebody that wants to start and play every game, so I'm sure she'll be frustrated by it, and we'll hope to try and get more minutes, you know, potentially after Christmas.
Yeah, and just lastly, England come up on Tuesday night against Ghana, you know, ranked 67th in the world. How do we see that one going? Do you think she's going to make changes or no?
I think she will make changes in this game. I wouldn't be surprised if we see the likes of Lucia Kendall come in again. I imagine Aggie Beaver-Jones will get a start. I don't think she can change the back four massively, just because we are short on numbers in that department. The midfield is probably the most interesting one, because there's actually quite a lot of competition for places in that department now. It's hard to know what to expect from Ghana, because, you know, they did come third at AFCON. You know, they're clearly a country that's improving. You'd imagine they'd be, you know, potentially give a bit more of a physical challenge than what China did. I thought China were quite off the pace against England, and England just kind of ran rings around them. I imagine Ghana won't be like that and will probably set up differently. And I actually, as I say, I mean, I could be massively wrong. We could see another big scoreline, but I think they'll actually give England more of a test than what China did on Saturday. So I'm really intrigued to see what happens, because I think sometimes we do underestimate the African teams, and they actually tend to be pretty good. We saw obviously in the World Cup, Nigeria gave England a really, really good game. So I hope Ghana do that tomorrow, because I think it's something that England need. Yeah.
Well, Kathryn, I always enjoy your expertise. Enjoy the game, and thanks so much for joining me on my show again.
Thank you, Lianne. Always a pleasure.
This is talkSPORT's Women's Football Show on talkSPORT 2. I'm Lianne Sanderson. Coming up next, I'll be joined by a very special guest, ACL specialist Andy Williams. This is talkSPORT's Women's Football Show on talkSPORT 2. I'm Lianne Sanderson. I'm delighted to say that I'm joined now live in the studio by specialist knee surgeon Andy Williams. Andy Williams is a specialist knee surgeon who has worked on ACL injuries for many players across the Premier League. He joins me live now to talk about a very important discussion, ACL injuries in the women's game. Andy, thanks so much for joining me. First and foremost, how are you?
Very well, thank you very much.
Well, I really appreciate you coming in, because we just learned something. That I told you I had my surgery at HSS, Hospital for Special Surgery in New York. I said to you, you might know my doctor. Anyone that knows HSS is one of the best hospitals in the world. And you actually trained my doctor, Daniel Nawabi.
Absolutely.
Like,
he was a top student, one of the best. absolutely amazing.
What a small world. I mean, yeah, just talk to me about your journey, how you got into kind of becoming an ACL surgeon and what it was that you made you want to get involved.
Well, if you want to get back to the beginning,
I do.
My old man was a builder. And I was very lucky that I had a biology teacher who said to my parents, perhaps I could do medicine. And very lucky that they actually backed that because I was going to take on the firm. But I guess in many ways I had the perfect training. Hammers, chisels, saws, everything I use today, but just a lot cleaner and a bit sharper as well. So I was blessed to work for the right people, and they inspire you, don't they? You meet people and you want to be like them. So my first ever job was at Croydon, not the most glamorous venue, but I worked for a knee surgeon. He was a lovely, lovely man, and he was very kind to me. And I just thought, I want to do this. And then I worked for a professor at the Royal National, who was very encouraging. Ultimately, I went to Australia and worked for a proper sports surgeon there. And it filled me with great inspiration. I came home as that's what I wanted to do. And on arrival back at the Royal National, I became a consultant there in 1997. And then by December, so I started it in July. By December, I got my first professional athletes through. 2 Chelsea players came up. And that was the beginning. So I started doing pro sport in 99 with Chelsea. And then I feel like I've been riding a wave ever since. I'm sort of waiting to fall off. But I've been very fortunate.
What do you think it is about like you that draws players to you? Because you've obviously worked with a lot of Premier League stars and players, like, and it was obviously the certain injury that was kind of like one in a few, wasn't it? It wasn't like all the time. It was like, oh my God, someone's done their ACL, could be career ending at that time because there wasn't the technology.
Exactly.
But what was it about you that you feel like you become the expert in your field?
I think within the doctor concern, they've got to want to do it. And football, it's a 7-day-a-week job. I can be anywhere in the world. I get contacted. These days, the message usually is, dear Andy, I hope you're enjoying your holiday, but could you just have a look at a scan? But I don't moan about that. I wanted to do it. No one told me to do it. And so I've got to suck up the downsides. But, the more you see and do, the better you get at it. And I guess reputation then builds. And, my most precious asset is my reputation. And so you have to endlessly be committed to learning, getting better and better. And treating athletes, I mean, it's a privilege because it's amazing the people I get to meet. But they make you so much better at your job because, number one, they get common things that are exaggerated. In Joe Public, you can get away with things because the demand isn't as high. Athletes also get rare things you just don't see very often in normal people. So when a normal person comes to me with that unusual problem, I can nail it straight away. And then it's such an unforgiving environment to work in. You just have to be good at what you do. And one of the most important things I guess I'm committed to is communication. And I am on the phone non-stop, day and night, to people, making sure everyone knows what's happening. Just while we're waiting, I'll be looking at a scan of a Premiership player. I'll be making a call. I'm probably going to see him tonight. And you've got to be happy to go that extra yard. The service is incredible, and it's a real commitment. But I'm not moaning because I felt it's a real privilege to do. I've become so much better for all my other patients by doing it. And it's just really stimulating. And in terms of research, which we might talk about later on, there are a terrible phrase, my
least favourite word is research. I love your research, but I'm saying like it's the number one thing, and we will talk about it later, that now it's almost like an excuse in women's football because we're not being like proactive
and doing
we're
something.
Reacting.
Exactly.
And it's like, we're going to do the research for, I want someone to show me what this is.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And there's no other group of patients you can study who will test the treatment properly. So a study of a normal population, usually the follow-up is about 70%. You lose people because they can't be bothered to join in, which is understandable. But they don't really test the operation. And so many of these studies, you read the scientific journal and it just says, oh, it's the same as that treatment. Well, no, it's not. It's just it wasn't tested. And so we've studied footballers' ACL reconstructions. And if you're a professional football player, you need to have a patellar tendon ACL. You can get a great result with a hamstring.
That's what I had.
Yeah, you can get a great result with a hamstring tendon, but the risk of it breaking again is higher. And we got the stats, whereas you have a study of the general population, you won't see a difference.
So you talk there about like working with Premier League players. What is the biggest difference between working with a professional athlete and like a regular person that comes into you?
There are two things really. One is the athlete. They are special human beings. They have incredible mental strength. They do pain. I can do bigger operations and get away with it on them. Whereas the general population, they may not be able to move a knee. They then get stiff and they get complications. even their tissues are better. So when I drill, I mean, it sounds terrible, I drill through bone, it's harder. And the skin's harder when I cut it. Everything about their bodies is better. And it's because they've been training and training. So they are a special group. The real difference is the pressure on them to perform.
Yeah.
Either timescales or a desire to get back. And that creates an intensity that can be difficult to handle sometimes.
I want to talk to you about my experience of when I tore my ACL
Yeah.
meniscus, right, when I was 28, because as I said, Dr. Nawabi, we're still friends now 6 years later, because your surgeon and your physio has become like, I just love them. I still speak to my physio at HSS now.
Yeah.
She's got 3 kids now, you know, one of their birthdays was yesterday. You feel like they're like, I feel attached to them.
Yeah, part of the family.
But like, what is it about some people? So you're saying the patella tendon, some people might do the hamstring. So, and why did some people say to me, you know, some doctors advised to me getting the surgery later, strengthening.
Yeah.
Some people advise getting it done now.
Yeah.
Is it based upon clubs? You say clubs will want it done now because they think the recovery will be quicker.
Yeah.
Is that something that you've seen?
Was very, very common. The pressure to get people back as soon as possible is massive. I understand that. And the weekly wages of some of the people we operate on is massive. So a week quicker, it saves a lot of money, it gets player back. But the problem is, although they are special people, they still obey the rules of nature. And if you operate on a knee that's angry, that won't come straight, they'll never come straight. They'll have a second operation. And if you do a second operation, the chance of getting back to pro football 10% less. So waiting a few weeks to get the knee quiet and straight and the quads firing can save a lot of trouble later. But if the athlete's got that straight away, so I saw a guy last week, I'm operating on him tomorrow, because he had a quiet knee, not much swelling, he was locking his knee out straight, we're ready to go. We used to apply the rule that, you should always wait 3 weeks. Well, that's a bit daft, because some knees need 6 weeks, but equally some are ready straight away.
Do the clubs allow you to? You're the expert in this line of work, right? But is there ever a time where like they try and get involved with, they're like, can we do this? Can we do that? And you're like, actually, no, this is what I'm going to do. I'm sure it can be a little bit of a tug of war sometimes.
Absolutely. I mean, I've got to be strong. It's getting easier and easier. I mean, the longer I've been around, I've been doing English Premier League for 26 years, so people do tend to listen now. When I was younger, you know, there's a group of people I call the non-medical medical experts. You know, they may not be even medical, and they all know it takes 6 months to get back from an ACL. They all know this. No, it doesn't. The average is probably 8 to 9.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I'm proud. I don't want bad results, and for the sake of the patient, I'm there for the patient who happens to be a pro athlete. We mustn't forget they're a patient. I'm going to say, no, we got to wait. And I will occasionally see a player on the morning of the surgery and it's not as good as I was told, and they have to go away for another week or 2.
I mean, I walked into my surgery, I was flying because Dr. Nawabi told me to strengthen.
Yeah,
and I'm like, I haven't done my ACL.
No.
I haven't done my ACL meniscus. You know, you're feeling good. And I walked onto the metallic table. And then after that, you know, that's when the recovery starts. But
so often I see people and they've had a few days to recover, and I'll examine the knee, and the knee moves not in a very nice way, as you know, and the family sort of grimace. And I said, look, I'm sorry, I'm showing you this to let you know you do have a problem. I know with every passing day you feel better and better, and you're wondering what the fuss is about. And they often say, yeah, I do, I feel good. But when I show them that slack in the joint, it's a very obvious symbol to the family and to the player that there's a genuine problem. It's broken.
now, I know you're obviously an expert in your field, but can we just simplify it a little bit for all my listeners? What is the ACL and what is I know it's the anterior cruciate ligament, but like, what is it? Can you just explain that to my listeners?
Yeah, so a ligament is a piece of soft tissue that joins 2 bones together. So it stops movements. And the ACL moves from the thigh bone, the femur. It goes forwards to the tibia, the shin bone. And as a result, it's really nicely aligned in an oblique fashion to stop the shin bone, the tibia, moving forwards. But in addition to that, looking front on, it's oblique in that direction as well. It goes from the outside to the inside as it goes down towards the tibia. So it controls rotation. And if you watch a football match, the amount of twisting and turning tells you why you need an ACL. And the other thing it does, people forget, it's not just a static restraint. It's full of nerve endings that fire messages back to the part of the brain that controls movement. The brain gets that information and translates it to better muscle control. And so it's almost like the knee is a bit blind as well as being loose. So there are 2 aspects to it.
So for someone like myself, I went into my surgery thinking it was just my ACL, and Dr. Nawabi fantastically did my meniscus in that time because it didn't actually show up on the MRI.
Yeah.
A couple of players I had to have a second kind of clean up of my knee because there was too much kind of scar tissue, and I wasn't able to get my range of motion back. So that was something I found quite frustrating.
Yeah.
But I was like, I'm very impatient anyway. And as a professional athlete, you want it done. You're like, I've done my knee. I'm doing my religiously doing my. But I've seen Viviana Miedema had the same type of injury. She was out for nearly a year and a half. Yeah. We've seen Sam Kerr now, as you know, at Chelsea, almost 2 years. And I think sometimes I felt this pressure to get back, quickly, because everyone's saying, oh, don't worry, you'll be back in 6 months. And you brought it up there, Andy. Like, with regards to that, like, realistically, you're saying at least 9 months, right? If you're lucky.
Yeah, I mean, I've got this incredible data set of players. I've been doing this a long time. I've got hundreds of ACLs, not just ACLs, but ACLs in professional football players. And in the series I published, 232 consecutive cases. The mean time was 10 months. Now, that's actually a little bit artificially high because some players are ready in April, maybe May, and think, actually, I tell you what, rather than playing this season, I'll wait till August. And then we lose 3 months. And so it falsely increases it. But, a straightforward ACL is at least 8 months. And you'll probably remember your first season back, you weren't right.
No, I said that today in an interview. I said, you're never really the same again, right? You can be 99%. But I scored on my first game back for Juventus, which was an amazing feeling. But I was picking up injuries in different parts of my body, though.
Your body isn't match fit. You've lost such a long time. So classic, I've never met Michael Owen, so I don't mind mentioning his name. The ones I've dealt with, I won't. But Michael, I noticed, had his ACL done, got back, then he had something else. And those muscles and sinews have got unmatched fit, if you like. And it's a big deal. And I think to get your final result, your best peak performance, takes a good 2 years.
I agree with that. I completely agree with that. And now, I've got you for 2 sections, which I'm so excited about because I feel like you and I could just talk about this till next year because I get infuriated the amount of injuries in the women's game. Now, we've seen 153 already this season, in the women's game, whether that be at the top, whether that be at the leagues that are lower. Can you give me a little bit more hope as to when is this epidemic going to end? Because it just feels like, oh, another ACL, oh, another meniscus, oh, on we go. It happens, injuries happen. It can't be this way, Andy, because in my time at Arsenal, originally back in the day, there was one person that did it a year. So what is going on?
So the term epidemic is used, and by the definition of it, it's not as bad as it sounds. But there is a big disparity between the women's number of injuries and the men's. And the question is, why is that? So I've been interviewed a number of times on this subject, certainly last year, probably 5 or 6 times. And the journalists will often say, well, Andy, isn't it to do with muscle strength? Isn't it to do with the angles of the bones, different in women, different in men? That the ACL sits in a little notch in the bottom of the femur, the thigh bone. It's smaller in women, isn't it? So all these little things, and it's as if there's something wrong with women, in truth, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's easy to blame the patient. And I do wonder if there's maybe an alternative view to it. It may be a more socio-political prejudice thing. If you look at men's football, it's been established for a very long time. It is a multi-billion dollar, pound, euro entertainment business. And so the boys with talent get picked up age 6 or 7, thrown a small contract. They think they're all going to be the top footballer. Only a few make it. Now, some of those have got knees that are vulnerable to ACLs. They blow their ACL, have a reconstruction. The big problem then is most of them get back, almost all of them get back to play. They never get a contract. And that's because they miss a year of age group football. They never catch up their mates. But if you've got a first team player, in men's, it's actually quite a rare injury because the ones who are predisposed have been weeded out. It's natural selection. But a first team player with an ACL, everyone's happy to wait. They're established. There's so much money invested. And we can get them back, take the time to do so. Now, if you look at the women's game, until very recently, being blunt, nobody was interested. Mm-hmm. There was no money in it. And just because a woman was a skillful player meant that they could get selected for a high-level team. But they did so without the 15 years of strength and conditioning, the best training, etc., etc. So all of a sudden, the door is open and people are welcoming women's football. It's fantastic to watch. It's end to end. It's quick. It's not like old women's football that was slower, etc. But suddenly there's an interest in it. But the leagues demand 2 games a week, just like the men. But the women concerned, although they're very skillful and they're now becoming very conditioned, haven't had the 15 years of preparation the boys have. Mm-hmm. And they haven't had time to weed out the ones who've got the predisposition. So I bet you, if women's football continues on this upward trend, maybe in 10 years, we get many less high-profile cases. The problem, though, is, like the boys, the girls are going to blow their ACLs and no one will know about it. And there's a risk no one will care about it. So if we go right back to the beginning, what we need to do is try and stop ACL ruptures. Mm-hmm. So
well, hold that thought because you're with me after the break, because I want to give you a little bit of my opinion and I want to hear how we think this can kind of be prevented. You're listening to talkSPORT's Women's Football Show on talkSPORT 2. I'm Lianne Sanderson. Coming up next, stick around as Andy will continue to chat about ACL injuries in the women's game. This is talkSPORT's Women's Football Show on talkSPORT 2. If you missed this episode live or ducking halfway through, don't worry, we're also available on the podcast. Plenty of place you can download us. But first, head to the talkSPORT app to find us. Now, Andy, I'm delighted to say you're back with me, and I've got a lot to say on this subject, but I love that you're an expert, and I keep saying it all the time. I don't think we're going to see this research come into fruition for another 10 years or so. Now, as you've seen in the women's game, like it's become just ridiculous, and it was a career-ending injury back in the day. What is the science, like what science have you seen over the years? Because you've been a surgeon now for a long time, 30 odd years, right?
Not that long.
Really?
No, I'm joking. Yes,
You have.
I'm 61.
Well, you don't look it, but you must have seen science change over the years, because there was times when I played at Arsenal when I could only remember 2 of my teammates doing it, and there was this talk about them career ending.
Yes.
So what science have you seen like kind of change for the better?
Yeah. So there's a number of things. I mean, first of all, I think we've learned how to do the operation well. The choice of ligament that we use, the best tissue is your own tissue. So traditionally and very commonly we'll use hamstring tendons for most patients. It's less sore, they recover well, they go back to an office job. But in professional football, what you really want is a patellar tendon graft. So from the front of the knee, it is more sore, but the re-tear rate is much lower. So by combination of doing experiments in the laboratory, but also following up my cases, I've got the data to say that although a hamstring is a great graft, and there's currently a Premier League player with a hamstring graft, for example, I've had great results, but the re-tear rate is higher. So guess what? I use patellar tendon because it's very robust. So we got the data to show that's what we should be using. Now, there's another graft that started, a quad tendon. Maybe that's something for the future, but we haven't got the data yet.
Does it differ, Andy, between like male or female? Like, would it differ? Because obviously when you look at the men, they do tear their hamstrings a lot more because they're quicker. And that's probably the most common injury in men's football.
It's really common, but thankfully for the surgery, it's not much different.
Okay.
The thing to say with the women, they do have a higher risk of redoing it. And so there's a new operation we developed in the laboratory and then have put that on the side of the knee, on the outside of the knee. The problem with an ACL is it controls movement, particularly the rotation that occurs on the outside of the knee. And we've actually resurrected a very old operation, but we looked at the anatomy, done the biomechanics, and now I've applied it to my players and I've got the data that shows that going from about a 7% re-tear rate with the patellar tendon on its own, it's now 2%. So that's a massive improvement for pro footballers and also for the general population, because if someone's at higher risk, they should have that. And so the footballers taught us stuff that's really valuable for the general population.
Yeah, I mean, as a former player myself, right, we went from training. Like, I want to hear what you have to say about this because I can only speak from my own experience. We used to train twice a week. We never used to train the day before a game, right?
Yep.
And I never saw this many injuries. Now, they brought in this pre-activation, which I'm keen to get your thoughts on this as well, because I always felt like I never had a choice. You know, the band work and you do kind of all that quad exercises and all that. Some people it worked for, but I never had a choice. I had to do it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but this was I never saw as many injuries as we do now. I wore David Beckham's boots growing up. Do we need women's football boots? We absolutely do. Yeah. But I wore David Beckham's boots growing up, and I continued to wear the men's boots and never got injured till I was 28.
Yeah.
So is there any truth behind the boots, our hips, menstrual cycle? I know I'm throwing a lot at you, but I need to know.
These are all these are all the things I mentioned as being is something wrong with women. I think they are important, but they're less important than a lot of people think at the moment. There's a huge interest in all that. It's quite right. It needs to be studied and then rectified if it can be. But I think the simple problem is the lack of conditioning at a young age. And so it's survival of the fittest. You know, the pressure of natural selection that Charles Darwin talked about applies to athletes. And you can have the most skillful player in the world, but if their body just isn't lined up right, they haven't got the right muscle, then they're going to break.
So how young are we talking then with the women? Like, what are we talking,
really,
like 7 years old?
Oh, really young.
Doing what type of stuff, though? Because you obviously can't have kids doing squats, really.
No, so, I mean, FIFA have done a good thing. There's the FIFA 11 Plus programme, and there's about a 20-minute programme warm up, to get all your muscles fired up. And muscle is your best friend. I mean, I know it gives you power and speed, why everyone trains, but it gives you stability. It holds your bones tight together so you can ride a challenge if you're being tackled or change the direction, etc. It also gives you shock absorbency. So if you get on the pitch having not warmed up, the door's open for an injury. But the trouble is, it's 20 minutes, and most coaches and kids want the kids playing football immediately. They rock up, they get changed, they play football. But if they were sensible, they would follow the FIFA 11 Plus or something similar. There are some other ones there. But the trouble is, it's time consuming.
So you're saying that clubs could kind of implement that?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's decent evidence for strengthening programs that will help protect ACLs.
Now, another player the other week, Michelle Adjumang, obviously Lioness, Brighton player, but Arsenal player also, did her ACL. When I was watching her do it, I don't know, you must feel this way, but I don't think I'm an ACL doctor. But when I see someone do it, I know they've done it.
Yes.
But when I'm on air, we're not allowed to speculate injuries. But as soon as I see it now, I kind of know. Yeah. I'm like, she's done her ACL. You don't want to accept it, but that's the reality. Now, we're seeing a lot of high profile players, like Leah Williamson did it, Beth Mead did it before the last tournament. It kind of hurts me, the fact that it takes high profile players to do it for more to be done. Do you see that? And No,
absolutely. And I think, it's in a first team male player, it's a rare injury because the people who were going to get it happened when they were young. And they've all filtered out. But the trouble with the women, they've not had that exposure to football the same as the men. So it is sexual discrimination, really.
So I want to have some hope here, right? Because I was so excited to get you on my show. What more can be done? And obviously, people say research, and I agree with you, and I've said it many times, I don't think we're going to see this for the next 10 years or so. No, but there's a lot of really good companies out there that are going around, measuring the foot and all those things. Yeah. Menstrual cycles, Chelsea, Emma Hayes have done it for a long time, and I do think there are some links to it. But give me some hope, Andy, as to every single week we don't keep seeing this.
Yeah, so I think that the key thing is political and social, if you like. If women's football gets the same status in our lives as men's, then it'll probably even out pretty well.
So we're not even talking there's no genetics behind this at all, because obviously people like hips, football boots, also turf or grass. Yeah. Is there links towards this?
So all these things, I think, they're relevant factors, and they do increase the risk in women. But I think the increased risk is quite small. And there are some things you can change, such as playing surfaces, footwear. But the big things are basically conditioning from a very young age will make a big difference, I think.
And you've done a number of ACL repairs in your time. I don't think people talk enough about the mental side of the ACL, because I used to wake up in the middle of the night. I slept in a leg brace for 7 weeks, right? And I would wake up and I would just be crying. Yeah. And I would be your stomach's not right. You'll be feeling sick. But I don't think that's spoken about enough. But can you talk a little bit about the mental side of it?
It's not spoken about enough. And it's massive. Thankfully, I was taught well by people who really got it. And there's good evidence that for an athlete, if they have an injury, it's like losing somebody in the family. So they get a true bereavement type problem. So initially it's denial. Then you're angry about it and very emotional about it, hence the crying and shouting. And then you reconcile it eventually. And you mentioned earlier on about, what is it about people like myself who do sports? If you want to be successful, you've got to show empathy. You've got to show you care about it. And I grew up in an era, I'm old enough, that the doctors sort of said, well, why don't you just give up football? What's the fuss about? Go and get a job. And the trouble is, what that feels like. It's the only thing in your life at the time, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you honestly, it's music to my ears, because I was in denial for about, even when I did my MRI, I had this massively awful pain in the back of my calf, like someone had shot me in the back of my calf, right? Yeah. I thought, I pulled my calf. And even then, they do the test on the field. Yeah. They do that test, and they pull. I see physios do it every single time, and they know. But the MRI is just to kind of confirm it. Yes. I was completely in denial. I was like, I've not done my ACL. It is not me. I'm not another person that's adding to that list. And I did.
Yeah.
And that was my biggest, coming to terms with that injury, I really, really struggled. I couldn't watch my team train. No, my team made the championship. I went, but I felt so emotional.
Yeah. And it's really tough for an athlete, and everyone wants to be a pro athlete, particularly a footballer, but it's a pretty hard life. And if you get a major injury, it's massive. So it's interesting, our data, the younger players have a higher return to play rate. I think they want it. Whereas some of the old ones, probably their best days behind them, they're happy about packing in. So 10% less, so 90% of over 25-year-olds get back, whereas the under 25s, it's 99%. It's amazing. But in terms of speed of return, the older ones get back quicker. I think they're just calmer and they take it in their stride better because they've been there before.
Yeah. I always felt...
Mental stuff's massive.
It is, and I always felt like my mind used to play tricks on me, because if I had a little bit of swelling, I'd go to see Dr. Nawabi, he'd just say to me, oh, like, that's normal, but it just reconfirmed, like, I just had to see him to kind of make me feel better.
No, because it's so precious to you. You know, for some people who blow their ACL skiing, it's, you know, they go on holiday with their family. They never fancied it anyway, but they went to be sociable, blow their ACL. They've got the best excuse never to ski again. Yeah. And they're not stupid. I mean, they stop doing the dangerous thing and they have a good operation and they've got a nice protected knee. But if you're an athlete, you know, the return to same level of sport in athletes is very high in pro athletes, but in amateurs, it's about 50-50. Yeah. And a lot of surgeons say, oh, it's terrible, we can't get our people back to sport. Well, if you're not earning a living from it and you're not that good, it could be the best thing you do is to give up a sport because it's a bit dangerous. But for you, you were never going to give that up. Right. It would have disturbed you terribly if you couldn't get back to what you are gifted at doing.
And I think as well, like, I want people that listen to this show and get your expertise. It doesn't only, like, aim at athletes, right? Because there are regular people that tear their ACL. Absolutely. And there's some people that I know that are not athletes and they say, oh, I'm not even going to get the surgery. Yeah. So if there's anyone out there listening that has torn their ACL and is thinking about not getting a surgery, what can the implications be for that in the long term?
So not everybody who has an ACL rupture needs an ACL reconstruction. And what I would say is most young active people do best to have a good ACL reconstruction. Choose my words really carefully, because the worst thing is bad surgery. Yeah. So you need to choose your surgeon very well, and you ideally want somebody who just does that sort of operation, and you get better and better. It's a 10,000 hour rule, but also they got an appreciation for that individual. They make the surgery. So, you know, for most people, I would use a hamstring tendon. So they're not pro athletes, and the risk of re-tearing them is much less. I make sure I fix the meniscus. I don't want to take it out. I make sure I add this operation on the outside of the knee that you mentioned, because they have a much lower risk of re-tearing. But if you're at high risk of problems, that means all children, adolescents, I passionately believe they need good surgery. But also if you're in your 20s, you want to go skiing once a year, or you want to play football socially, not having surgery is, I'm afraid, not without risk, because everyone recognises that surgery's got risks. It's not just failure. You know, if you have a non-operative approach to it and you have hidden instability in which the two bones move on each other, a bit like driving a car with the wheels out of line, you can drive for miles, but the tyres wear out. If you've got slack in your knee, most patients know they have, and they come asking for an operation. But unfortunately, there are a significant minority who think they're all right. Then they come back to me with problems. They got arthritis. So you have to be careful. The things not to ignore, number one, is swelling or a feeling of insecurity. Now, if it's dramatic, you'll fall over. But if you just don't trust your knee, get good opinion on it.
Okay, my last question to you, because I've loved your insight. It's been amazing. I think a lot of my listeners will really enjoy listening to this. Give me some hope, Andy. You know, like, because I said 153 already in the women's game. Yeah. Like, where can I feel positive? Because I don't feel positive at this moment in time.
So, number one, I think as women's football gains popularity and importance, we're going to see a reduction because of the conditioning, all those things. Second, I think we'll be able to work out good prevention programs. And then we need to improve surgery. And the biggest challenge in medicine, actually, is variability of outcome. So how come in 2025 you can have an operation with one person and it's brilliant, and an operation with another surgeon, it really is not brilliant? And so we're going to do a lot of education and training of surgeons. AI and robotics may help that. You basically got to put the ligament in the right place. And there are unfortunately some people who struggle with that. And so that will all improve outcomes. And so actually, I think at the moment we've got a real crisis. But as long as women get a fair crack of the whip, things will get better. But that will involve political change, social change, money going into the sport, etc., etc. And so it's almost more of a political thing than it is actually a medical thing.
Yeah, I think for me as well, I know it sounds vain, but I'm sure a lot of people feel the same. Like, I was very conscious of my scar. I didn't want to have this massive scar. And I think science has changed over the years because some of my teammates had this massive scar that looked like a shark bite. Whereas now I didn't want anyone to know that I'd done it. So I didn't want to be on holiday and someone comes over and says, oh, I've seen, you know, that wouldn't make me feel good. But Andy, Dr. Andy Williams, thank you so much for joining me. Really appreciate your expertise. I know you're a massive Chelsea fan. So he was at the game yesterday. But thank you for joining me. Really appreciate it.
Look after everybody equally, I promise.
Okay. Thank you, Andy.
No, pleasure. Real pleasure.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.